We're driving a Prius that has been modified to go up to 70 miles an hour in all-electric mode, and in blended mode it will optimize how much electricity it puts through the motor, and it will put as much as possible at all times. So, do I turn here?
No, just go straight.
So effectively it's an electric car unless the demand of the road or hills or acceleration needs a little bit of the engine. At that point the engine will just come on to boost whatever is needed and just go right back off again. So under many driving conditions it's an all-electric vehicle until the pack depletes. This is a 2005. It's our original prototype with our third generation system, which has been in Chicago for a couple months after testing at Argonne to make sure that what we thought was happening was really happening, and it is. They were very impressed.
So what is it that what did they look for? What were they testing? What were their concerns?
You can turn.
We took the car through the drive cycles that all cars go through when they're being EPA certified for mileage. Hold on a second. And found that the car performs as we expected while still meeting the super ultra low emissions vehicle standards that are in place for this vehicle.
Now the concerns on the part of the OEM that built this car were that you could not drive this car over the 35 mile an hour limit that's built into the car without overspeeding the engine and some of those issues.
It was a matter of overspeeding the generators. There was a way to do it where you could kind of trick the engine into thinking there was no fuel flow, which would shut the engine off, and the engine would not come back on until you stopped the car and turned it back on and cleared some codes. And that method towards 52 miles an hour was pushing the motor generators to the edge of their high-end speed limit, which was a real concern because nobody knew what effect that was going to have. Plus, you had no acceleration if you needed it. You had to turn the car off and turn it back on in order to have your engine again. This is a whole different thing. What we're doing here is allowing the engine to come on whenever it's needed under any circumstance, just as designed by Toyota. What really is happening is the stealth mode that every Prius has. If you're on a highway going downhill, people may have noticed the engine kind of shuts off. It actually spins, it doesn't shut off. And we do that same thing. But we make sure that in every case, if we have a charged battery pack, we use that energy first before we let the engine come on. And because of that, we have incredible mileage gains, of course.
We're talking about what makes it possible to get around that 35 mile an hour, if you will, electronic barrier.
I don't know how they do it myself, actually. There's a small connection we make, and the rest of it's software. So it's mostly a software enhancement to our battery management system that allows us to keep the engine off when we want it to stay off. And at the same time, we can have the engine do a cold start warm-up cycle at any time. So we can predict when the battery's going to deplete. I'm just trying to think about where we're going here.
Yeah, I know.
We can predict when the battery's going to deplete, and before that time comes, we can do a controlled warm-up. So we're having the engine do its warm-up, but keep it from being connected to the drivetrain.
Okay.
So it still remains an electric vehicle, but the engine is on doing its warm-up thing, which is much more efficient than if you need the engine under load. And by doing that, we should be able to meet all of CARB's requirements, California Air Resources Board's requirements for the emissions. Because what we don't want to do is a conversion on a car and have the emissions become worse.
Right.
We want it to become better. And when CO2 starts becoming important and there's regulations on CO2, this car will have much lower emissions of CO2. I believe this car is now at the level that the Volt will be in many ways. It won't have the acceleration in all-electric mode that a Volt will have, but in many ways a parallel hybrid is more efficient than a serial hybrid once the pack depletes. So I think Toyota did some wonderful work in decision making on having their hybrid be a parallel hybrid having that become ready to be an electric vehicle. So they knew what they were doing. And this car, after the pack depletes, will still get 50 miles per gallon, whereas a Volt, after the pack depletes, may be down as low as 35 miles per gallon. We're not sure yet, but that's my guess. Okay, we're going to accelerate a little slowly, which I don't like to do to the people behind us, but it's science, so
Right.
in the interest of science. We're at 39 now, so we're above the 34 already.
Yep. In fact, there's 40.
It seems like the engine just came on.
No, it still shows EV mode on here, on the screen. I'm gonna let you over.
Well, he was going. She was going to do it, and there was a car behind her. And,
Yeah.
You know, it's not normal to go this slow.
Yeah.
So we need a little thing in the back that says experimental drive. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so we're going slow because we want to sort of gradually work up. If we go faster, it would go back into PHEV mode. Then,
Right.
correct?
And this particular display isn't programmed to go back into EV.
Okay.
So we're at 55 now, all EV.
And 57, 58. Now, if you were to do a normal now, I felt something there. What was that?
That was just a bump. That was.
Oh, okay.
If it says EV, we're still in EV.
Yeah, we're still in EV on the display screen. So
Should I go west?
no,
or?
go west. Yes.
Okay.
And then what we want to do is get off on 42nd Street.
Okay.
You want to get off on 42nd or 60th?
Oh, let's go 60.
Okay, go 60th. All right. Yeah, it's a little further on the interstate that way. Outside temperature, by the way, is 90 degrees. We're doing at the moment 51 miles per hour and cruising along in PV mode here. Battery pack is showing looks like about half, a little below half state of charge.
See if we can get a flat part and get up to 70. 65 is good enough, I think.
Yeah.
And we've kind of made our point here. We're at 60 miles an hour now, all electric.
Yep, there we are, 60. I can verify it. We're doing 63 miles per hour in electric EV mode. Something no other Prius in the world at this moment can do, with the exception of some of the experimental Priuses that Toyota might have in Japan. And right now we're probably about 40%, 45, 40%. Okay. Going down a bit of an incline, 65 miles an hour, and yes, we are. We're still in EV mode, 67.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
Now you see why I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
This is a game changer, this car right now. And we do it within all the normal operating limits of the Prius systems. So every one of them operates the way it was designed. We're not pushing anything outside its limit. The reason we're able to do it is because we have a big battery pack. And when Toyota puts a big battery pack in theirs, obviously they can do the same thing very easily. And they will.
So let's talk dollars and cents here. Obviously people are going to say, wow, I want that in my car. What's the story there?
Up until now, our system price was $12,500 installed. We decided that since this is so important, and since without it the car is such a fraction of what it's capable of, we're just going to bundle it in. So for $13,500 you can have this entire system with the control unit.
Okay.
And it's looking like when you run the numbers, when gasoline is about $7 a gallon, you break even in 5 years. And as the price goes up, of course, we're going to get close to that. So right now it's early adopters, people that want to make a statement and be an example. But there are many people now that realize how important it is to do this, because our planet needs help. And it's not just about the money. It's about doing something useful right now that can make a difference.
Yeah.